Welcome back, guys, to this Regenesis guide. So here in this guide I will show you the new Regenesis archetype. Firstly, we are going to talk about the new cards, also in combination with all of these other cards that we are going to play in the deck. I will present this to you as a Regenesis Kashtira Bestial deck, since I think this is kind of the only way we can play it in Master Duel. There's a big disadvantage that we unfortunately have, because we need the Kashtira engine kind of, and we have it very limited in Master Duel, especially like the Wraith Soft, the Unicorn, which is very important, but also the Fenrir, which can search the Unicorn. This is a bit unfortunate for us. We also have something like Pot of Extravagance, which would be very nice in this Regenesis deck that is just not available, or we only have it at one. So I think this is one of the best versions that you can run. I will talk with you about what these cards can do in the introduction part right now, and then I will show you some combos. But what you need to understand is that this is not really a combo deck. Yes, there are some combos, but this is more like, it's kind of a bit like Kashtira, funnily enough, where you go like, hey, I summon my Fenrir, I summon my Unicorn, and then, yeah, here I pass turn to you, and I have two strong interruptions, I guess. Regenesis kind of works in the same way. They generate value over time, so if you can play longer games, they will definitely win you games, but this is not like a big combo deck. Nevertheless, I will show you some combos so that you understand how this deck basically operates. It's really not a hard deck, but once again, as I said, it's unfortunately not as strong as it could be. Maybe in the future when we get the Kashtira stuff unhit, this will be better when the pots get unhit or something. Right now it's very inconsistent, unfortunately, so not a deck I would recommend investing gems into, honestly, in my opinion. But obviously, if you want to play it, then go ahead. You might already have the Bestials and the Kashtiras, and yeah, let's go and talk about this before I show the combos, and then in the end going over the deck list name by name. So we are starting here with the Kashtira engine, which is our supplementary engine, and this is because the Regenesis monsters basically want monsters with 2/5 original attack and defense, and then they can be special summoned, they can do their thing, and this is why we need monsters with 2/5 attack or defense, namely Kashtira Unicorn. We would love to have this at 3, we would love to have the Pressured Planet Wraithsoft at 3, and also the Fenrir, because obviously Fenrir can search the Unicorn, even though it's in itself, it's not monster with 2/5 attack or defense. And then again, also in this current meta where Malice is obviously super strong, Kashtira Unicorn is just nice because it can rip these one-off cards out of the Malice extra deck. Super impactful, super strong. And then we are playing the Bestials here because they are also 2/5 attack, and yeah, this also works. You can also interrupt something like Malice, something like Ryzel with this, so they definitely make sense. You could think about putting more Bestials in, maybe to be more consistent. This is something you have to, I don't know, find out for yourself. We can play kind of an okay amount of non-engine. We have 3, 6, 9, 10. We have 12, 15 on engine. If you count the Bestials, they're also engine, but let's say 18. That's kind of nice. But once again, the Bestials are also engine. And then we have Lancia. You can obviously decide on what you want to play right here. So we have the Kash engine here. You can play this Kashtira Rise Heart, giving you the ability to make an Rise Heart, which is obviously super nice. Not that great against Malice, unfortunately, because everything getting banished is not that great. But banishing face down is very good against Malice. But so you can decide whether you want to play this Rise Heart or not. Definitely the Wraithsoft and the Kashtira Theosis, as well as the Birth. I think they are very nice. And then before we talk about Regenesis Birth, let's put it down here to the traps. Let's talk about the most important main deck monster, which is Regenesis Archfiend, and the names are crazy. Bin Bimidbar. So you can special summon this card from your hand by revealing one other monster in your hand with 2/5 attack or defense. This is where the Bestials are actually nice, because you don't even need to summon them, so you don't need something to be banished. This is obviously hard on your first turn because there will be nothing in the graveyards, but you can show them with the Beniba, and then you can summon this guy. And when this card is summoned, you can only use each of the effects once per turn. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add one Regenesis card from your deck or banishment to your hand, so this can search everything. Very nice. And then this has one of the effects that basically every one of the base monsters also has during your opponent's end phase. If this card is in your graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can add it to your hand. And this is where this engine generates follow-up and generates advantage points through grinding out your opponent, because you will get these resources back every turn if you use them on your opponent's turn, and you will understand in a second how you use them on your opponent's turn. Obviously, you also have stuff like the Kashtira stuff that can come back with Birth. You could maybe put in one more Birth for like a grind game idea of the deck, but unfortunately, I think that right now it's not really the meta to play it as a grindy game deck. It just doesn't really work. Then we have the Regenesis God Deutu something Deuteronomion. These names are crazy. Cannot be normal summon set, must be special summoned from your hand by banishing one face-up monster you control with 2/5 original attack and defense. So this time around we can't tribute like our Bestials or Kashtiras, but we need to use our Bimidibar or the other ones that we will talk about in a second here. And then we can only control, we can only special summon this once per turn. If this got a special summon, you can set one Regenesis spell trap from your deck, and it gains 2/5 attack during the battle phase only. If this card attacks the defense position, inflict damage, so this is also a kill opportunity. You don't need to play this card, but because we already have so little Regenesis stuff that we can basically play, because it doesn't really make sense to play more of these, let's call them interruption Regenesis monsters, I don't really think that, we shouldn't play him, but you don't want to play more than one. Then we have a Regenesis Dragon Vajikra. If a monster with 2/5 original attack or defense on the field, you can special summon this card. So once again, same effect here. Actually, no, because these have the 2/5 attack on the field clause, whereas the Bemidbar has the 2/5 attack in the hand clause, right? So this is your starter because this can work with other 2/5s in the hand, namely these or maybe the Unicorn as well as the Magnamut, where these need one on the field, which is obviously harder to accomplish. So you can only summon this once, blah, blah, blah. And then during your opponent's turn or once per turn quick effect, you contribute this card, then target one spell trap your opponent controls, banish it. So this card tributes itself, and then during your opponent's end phase, if this card is in your graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can add it to your hand. So you banish or tribute this. Then you target a spell trap your opponent controls and you banish it, and then in the end phase you get this back to your hand. Obviously, then next turn you can resummon it again, right? So this is where you generate advantage points and win the game throughout time. Then we have the Warrior, which basically all of these are kind of the same. So all of these have the same clauses at the end phase and at the you can summon them with 2/5 monster on the field phase. And this has the quick effect: you contribute this card, then target one monster your opponent controls, return to the hand. So this is a bounce, where this is a spell trap banish. And then the most important one, the Sage Shimot. You can send one other Regenesis card. This time around, this is how we can, for example, send the Regenesis Archfiend Bemidbar to the graveyard and get it back in the opponent's end phase. So with this, we need to send another one, and those can tribute themselves. And then we can we can send this to the field, from the field or hand, by the way, also from the hand to the graveyard, negate the activation of a card, and if you do, destroy that card. So this is basically an Omni negate, super strong. And then once again during our opponent's turn, if we have used it there, we can add it back. So this is our monster lineup, and what you basically want to do, so that you understand the deck, it's really not that complicated. You want to get to as many of these cards and get it onto the field when your opponent's turn is basically there, and then you want to have something like a Unicorn, like a Fenrir, maybe you have an Eraser, then you have this guy here to Omni negate, you have this guy to bounce, you have maybe this guy to banish spell trap. This is the worst one of these three here, but this is what you want to do, and this is how you play the Regenesis deck basically. So it's really not that tough. We have Tora Regenesis. All of these names are so crazy. Special summon one Regenesis monster from your deck, but send it to the graveyard during your opponent's end phase, which obviously isn't that bad. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck until the end of the next turn after this card resolves. So this extra deck locks you. This is okay. We don't really need our extra deck. Once again, we would love more pots here because we don't need the extra deck, but unfortunately this doesn't work. But fortunately for us, the Kashiwa cards work on their own, obviously. During your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard and target one of your banished Regenesis monsters, special summon it. Which is obviously nice if, for example, you use Bemidbar to summon the god Deuterion, and then the Bemidbar is in the banishment because of his summoning condition. You can basically resummon it, and then once again you have place. You would see this in the combo portion of the deck. But obviously you can special summon a Regenesis monster on your turn. You can do it on your opponent's turn, which is very nice. You can either get one of the Stardust, the Archfiend, or you can get one of these interruptions onto the field. So we obviously want to max out this at 3. And then we have another great spell, Regenesis. So basically the name of the archetype. We would love to have like 3 more good spells. So I mean 1 more good spell that we can play at 3 basically. And I think then the ratios would be actually kind of nice. So Regenesis, take 1 Regenesis monster from your hand and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. Or if you control a Regenesis monster, you can add 1 monster with 2/5 attack and defense from your deck to your hand instead. So yeah, you can either take a Regenesis monster and add it to the hand, or one with these stats here, which in this deck also are these, so this doesn't really make a difference here. But obviously this is our search card that can search as our starter, the Behemoth Bar or something else in addition. So maybe we have Behemoth Bar already, then we grab the Omni Negate, the Bounce, or the Banish spell trap. Really, really great. And then also if this card is in your graveyard, except the turn of a center, you can banish it, then target one Regenesis monster in your graveyard and special summon it. Once again, super, super great. Both of these provide good starting points, good follow-ups. They are extremely good and you want them at free. And once again, we are already in our non-engine part here, so this is like more hand trappy build here. I don't need to explain the non-engine to you. And then we have Regenesis Birth, another really great card. The spell traps are really good in this archetype. A continuous trap, you can send one Regenesis monster from your deck to the graveyard, then target one face up monster your opponent controls, change it to face down defense position, so a Book of Moon basically, very good, especially against Malice. And also you send one card to the graveyard, and I think they should trigger, right? Isn't this the case if this card, because it was sent at this turn? Yeah, actually, so what you could do with the Birth is, and the Birth works on its own, right? So you don't even need anything here, you can just activate the Birth. You don't, if you hard draw this card, it doesn't really matter because it's still great. And you can send, I don't know, your Archfiend and you will get it back because you have sent it on your opponent's turn. So really great card, Regenesis Birth. We might think about maybe upping this to 2. You can also search it with this God guy or with the Archfiend in theory. You could bump this up to 2. This is actually a very strong card. It has another very strong effect that we'll also see in the combo part. During your opponent's turn, you can send this face up card from your spell traps onto the graveyard, special summon as many Regenesis monsters with different names as possible from your hand or graveyard and or banishment, but send them to the graveyard during the end phase. Doesn't really matter because you obviously want to use them, and you will get them back anyways. So you can use your Regenesis monsters that you use on your first turn or make on your first turn and make link plays with them into, I don't know, Masquerena or something. You will see this in the combo guide, and then you can resummon them. So really strong. The traps and spells are insane. If they give us a bit more like, better starter monsters or better workaround cards here, I think the archetype has a lot of potential, but for right now, I think it's not super, super great. And then we once again have these Bestials here, and yeah, I have an extra deck with a lot of different stuff here, like rank 7 stuff, rank 8 stuff I think is also here. We have like Baron and Changing because you can make them with the 7s and Ash Blossom, for example. So a lot of different stuff that you don't really need. We can make like Star Slayer and Zeus because we can also make Shangri-Ira, and we have a Rise Heart here. But once again, sometimes you are being locked out of the extra deck. Sometimes you use your Pot of Extravagance. We would love to have 3. This would make this deck so much more consistent. It's crazy. Unfortunately, does not work. But yeah, this is the deck how I would kind of like play it. Let me show you some combos so that you better understand how you want to sequence things, and then in the end I will show you the deck list once again, and we will go over every card card by card basically. Okay, let's assume, and this is like, it's basically one card combo with this Behemoth Bar, but we need a monster with 2/5 attack in the hand, otherwise you can't special summon him. So you might have one in the hand, but let's assume we have a Fenrir, right? Then we go Fenrir, we are going to search our Unicorn, and now we have our 2/5 available. Now we can special summon by showing the Behemoth Bar activate to grab the God Deuteronomion, sounds like a Digimon actually, activate the Deuteronomion and place the Torah Regenesis. We can now go tribute summon actually into the Unicorn, activate Unicorn for the Birth. Then we are going to place the Birth, and we are going to resummon our Kash Fenrir here, and now we are going to pass over. It does not look like much maybe, but we have a lot of stuff available. Obviously we have our Kashtira stuff here. We have 3 cards that are 3 interruptions and can also generate follow-up on the next turn, and we have our Torah Regenesis. Now in the draw phase, let's just see what we can do right here. We can use Torah in order to summon, for example, the Bounce guy. You could also summon the Dragon because the Dragon can tribute itself, as can the Warrior. And now what we have here is an additional Bounce basically, and we have follow-ups. So this is what we have for interruptions here with the hand we started with basically only one Behemoth Bar, and we have a lot of follow-up, which is kind of nice. So let's say our opponent summons something, in this case the Blazing Inpachi. We are going to tribute this Warrior here to bounce it, and this is what our opponent can do. In the end phase, we get the Warrior back to our hand. Very nice. We have even more stuff right now than we had before. We can get our turn back here, and this time around, let's assume we draw a Unicorn, I don't know, and then we activate Torah Regenesis to just get back to our field the Behemoth Bar, which once again, Behemoth Bar can now grab back the Torah, which we can once again use on our opponent's turn. On our opponent's turn, we could, for example, special summon the Omni Negate. Now we can use our Fenrir to search our Rise Heart, making a Rise Heart. Unicorn can obviously search, grabbing us our Kashtira Theosis. So you can see how many advantage points this deck can generate in like a quick amount of time. And obviously, at this point, you will just overrun your opponent with the advantage that you have generated, basically. Activate Tora, and now we can summon the Omni Negate here, which on the opponent's turn, this Omni Negate can send away the Behemoth Bar for the Omni Negation effect, and then obviously Behemoth Bar will get back to our hand in the end phase. We once again have the Tora in the graveyard that we can then, in next turn, once again use to once again get this Behemoth Bar or another card from our graveyard back. So it's a like continuous loop with this deck, and now we can also summon, obviously, the Warrior, and now on the next turn, as you can see, we have even more interruptions. So we started with 4 basically, but now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the Kashtira Birth 6, and we have these cards in hand already for follow-ups. So you can see how this deck is potentially very, very strong, but we need a little time to really get going. But this is kind of okay, because you just have to imagine that with these 4 interruptions that we had on the first turn, we also have some hand traps. I've shown you that you can play a fair amount of hand traps, so there you can stop your opponent basically. Now let me show you a bit of a more complex combo with another starting hand, and this deck is just something that you kind of need to learn, but I think it's also very easy to understand how different cards work together. Let's say we have like a Waves of a Behemoth Bar and the Sage here, the Omni. So we are starting here once again with our Pressure Planet Ravesov, grabbing the Kashtira Unicorn. We already have a 2/5 attack in hand, that's nice. Unicorn is going to search the Kashtira Theosis. Now we can reveal the Sage, summon the Behemoth Bar effect, to once again this time around get the Regenesis. Regenesis activate, and we are grabbing the God. Once again, God is going to tribute the Behemoth Bar, and we can this time around set the trap here, and you will see how important and strong this card is. Now we can special summon the Sage and link both away into an IP Masquerina, and we can once again also use Kashtira Theosis here, summon the Fenrir. And what you could also do is now we can use the Fenrir here. In this case, we will just search the Unicorn, but you could have searched the Rise Heart, and you could, for example, also made the Kashtira a Rise Heart here. But keep in mind that Regenesis Birth's second effect that we want to use on our opponent's turn, as you will see in a second, needs you to send this card to the graveyard basically, which under the Kashtira Rise Heart won't work anymore. Same thing like with Maxi basically. So if you make a Kashtira Rise Heart here, then you will use this for its first book effect, obviously. But still a lot of interruptions, and Kashtira Rise Heart in and of itself is a crazy card. Okay, so we are passing over to our opponent, and then let's say we don't want to book with the Regenesis Birth, but we want to summon, so we activate Birth, get it to the graveyard to summon back the Omni Negate as well as our Behemoth Bar. So this is where this card is really crazy, and then obviously Behemoth Bar can also generate even more advantage by grabbing the Warrior. Once again, we need another turn in order to get all the interruptions out of our deck that we can. So this will be live next turn, obviously not on this turn, but we have our Unicorn, we have Fenrir, we have Omni Negate, we have the IP Masquerina into a potential SP, and normally this should be enough to stop your opponent, and then you get everything back that you have tributed. These can once again search, you can get your Birth can rebound stuff, you can make even more stuff from the extra deck alive basically, and you also have the Warrior. Then next turn you can use your Regenesis to resummon something. It's crazy how much advantage this deck can generate once it gets going, and once again you just have to look at your hands, understand your hand. Do you have a like 2/5 attack monster? If yes, cool. If not, go search it, because then you can start your plays, and this is where this deck is kind of like super easy, but this is what you kind of want to accomplish, the 2 combos I showed you. And now let me show you the deck list card by card. Alright, if you want the explanation of the cards, then go ahead and look at the introduction part of the video. Otherwise, we are playing 1 Fenrir, 2 Unicorn, 1 Rise Heart, 1 Planet Ravesov, 1 Kashtira Theosis, 1 Birth, triple Regenesis Archfiend, Behemoth Bar, then 1 Regenesis God Deuterimenion, then 1 Regenesis Dragon Varitra, then 1 Regenesis Warrior Bereshmet, and 1 Regenesis Sage Shemot. Then we're playing Tora Regenesis thrice, 3 Regenesis, 1 Nibiru. Makes sense if you have the Maxi. 2 Maxis, 3 Ash Blossoms, 2 Called by, 1 Crossout. The basic stuff, basically. We have triple Infinite Permanence, 1 Regenesis Birth that you could push up to 2 in my opinion, because you can just hard draw this, and then you have this Book of Moon effect, which you can basically use every turn, by the way. Every turn you can Book of Moon, so that you could use 1 Regenesis Birth for the second effect, sending it to the graveyard, and then you have this Book of Moon Regenesis Birth every turn, basically. Artifact Lancer because of Malice, and then we have these Bestials here. If you struggle with consistency, you could bump it up to one more Bestial, for example, cut one of these other non-engine cards, and then the Pot of Extravagance just for more consistency. We are playing 2 Kashtira Shangri-Era so that we can, if we banish here, maybe keep one of these. We have 1 Arisard, 1 IP, as you've seen in the combo video, 1 SP. Starslayer and Zeus make a lot of sense. We have number 7/6 Harmonizer, Goo, something. You can basically quick effect target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, detach one material from this card, and if you do attach that card to this card as a material, so this is kind of like a special interruption thingy here. Doesn't really come up that often. You can play anything else level 7 here. We have a Baron de Fleur that you can make with these 7s and like the Ash Blossom. Then we have the Dark Armed Dragon. We have number 11 Big Eye. We have Swordso Supreme Sovereign Senging. We have number 1 Infection Busking. We have Nightmare Phoenix, and we have Dungursu, the Orchest of the Evening Star. But once again, this extra deck does not really matter. I think the most important ones would be the Kashtira cards, and then the IP Masquerina, SP Little Knight, and maybe these, and everything after here is kind of interchangeable. I might go for the Baron because it's just nice and might come up sometimes to make a Baron de Fleur, which is super strong, obviously. But all of this other stuff you can definitely exchange. If you have any more questions regarding the Regenesis deck, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, if you liked my little combo guide here, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, and yeah, comment maybe. This would definitely help. And if you have any more questions, go ask them. Thanks for being here. We will see each other in the next one.